Side Out with
Dave
and Mackie. Just throw it out there. We're on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on, you guessed it, it's at freedomslips.com. See how I did that? Where it's more than just radio, so jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 417.
710 and 400.
It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app on your smart device to listen anywhere. And you can listen at home on a great tabletop digital radio, as one does. I completely missed all of the shows today, every single one, and I don't know who Solaris had on today. I think, yes, it was John Valadez, and they were talking about the paranormal. And that's what was going on. And if you missed her show like I did, I can just jump in the archives and I can listen to the show when I want. It's Andy, I suggest you do the same thing. It's round about the cost of a coffee, but only one coffee per month. Hey, who can't do that, right? So, so you missed an awesome show of hers. So did I. It's, as Mackie said, it's shame on me, but don't let it be shame on you, and that's really important, I think. Besides that, Mackie and I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Where I live, it's the Darkinjung people, and where Mackie lives, it's the
Rock people.
And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And let us remember that beneath all of our civilization are lands, untouched lands, which have stories passed down for about 240,000 generations. And I implore you to find who looked after the land, who the custodians of the land, before you came along, Westerners came along, where you live. Find out the history of the land. Find out, in Australia, it's pertinent because nothing at all looks like food. Nothing. In fact, the only thing that looks like food, you can't even eat, because if you do, it'll prohibit your body from taking in vitamins and resulting in a very slow death. And it looks like sort of like a melon. And it was the only thing that the explorers in Australia found that looked or resembled anything like food. Everything else resembled bad things to eat. It's like those little tiny red berries, look like holly berries. They're really bad. You don't eat those, right? Almost everything there is, you don't want to eat. All the things that look like just regular animals are a bit too strange looking to want to eat those either, but they're really good. That's good, Tucker. So, it is good.
That's good, Tucker.
No.
That's right.
So, anywho, I'm just making sure that recording's working. Yes, it is, and because I don't want to be without that. That's pretty bad. Now, how's your week? In your neck of the woods? That's true. Hmm. That's okay. How was your week? Wow. That's a lot of information coming from Meki today. That's great. So, I'm sharing the graphs, Meki, that I've kept up to date the whole time, and it's just a little disappointing to see. And I really have a problem believing some countries' data. For instance, China, even with the shutdown, the amount of people who have not been tested because they were never treated in hospital, they died either in the waiting room or in their houses in the lockdown, were never counted towards the total. So while it looks like that's subsiding, there's still lockdowns. So it's not going away anytime soon. The total world infections is exceeding exponential growth right now. So that's there's no way to see this, Mickey, for you, but those graph snapshots that I send you. The other one's the total outpatients. I think that's really also very important, and part of the math, Mickey, that you were talking about, and I've got another example in a sec, to do with outpatients and the death rate. So it overall so far in the outpatients is 7 point something% now. And we've seen this climb from 1 to 2, 2.5 to 3, and it just keeps going up. And that's what's worrying. Now, some of that is coming from Italy because they've got a 40% mortality rate now. And that's on outpatients. So you're going to spend 5 weeks on a ventilator on average. So whether or not you spend 5 weeks and come out healthy, or you're in there at some point and you fall off the perch, is the problem that we're facing, these numbers. So every virus has been figured by its severity on the end of the virus using outpatient numbers. That's what I want to just put out there. That's where we're concentrating on numbers, not the current infected by those who've died, because that shows you nothing important. Because it's such a long period of time that you're in intensive care. So far, if in everywhere but Italy and China, you've got around about a 10% chance of going into intensive care. That's the probability there that we're looking at. But I have to say, Mackie, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is the total infection change per day has gone up to around about 11,800 in the last day. That's new cases of infection change. The other one is the total active patients now. In the peak of China, we hit, around just short of, 60,000. But now the total active patients is around about 77,000. Total active. So that's how many people, how many ventilators. That's the kind of people you've got to have space for this. And the death rate, Mickey, also has peaked out at around about 550 per day. That's the highest it's ever been since this started, showing that the quantity of people, this is all relative to the quantity of people. There's 8 or 7, 11, no 10. There's 10 countries in the 50 club, and there's something like 20 countries in the 100 club. And we saw about 10 of those jump up into 1,000 club now. So the 1,000 club only had a couple of people in it, like 3 of them. And now, South Korea, France, as you said, Spain, the US, Norway, Germany, and Switzerland all are in the thousands now. And yet there still remains a little bit of a gap. And then we're going to see, because, South Korea has tapered off. Now, that's because of their method of testing and isolation. That's the first thing you need to do, is understand who's got it and where they are, and isolate them. Not let them wander about, the community infecting more people. And you're right, that's exactly where our problems are. So the 10,000 club has China, Italy, and Iran in it. And to be honest, Italy is still exponential. Iran is starting to curve upwards, and that hasn't finished yet. So, one of their ministers passed away, and the other quantity of ministers, 23 of them, are all infected. It's crazy. This is one of those things. Okay, so the mixed messaging from all of our governments, because there are just I like to use glacial. So they're incapable of making fast decisions and being agile and doing all the things to respond to something that's moving this fast. It's like trying to play a first person shooter, and you've got tons of latency, and people are bouncing around you all over the place, and by the time you shoot, they're not even in a room anymore. That's the kind of thing that's how they're acting. And it's just a shame that they're trying to do something and it was weeks too late. And so we haven't even got, they've just, I think, spent the money or paid the cash for an advertising campaign on how to just keep clean and try to avoid it. Like, that should have been weeks ago, right? Granted, we understand the delicate balance between economy and public health right now in this kind of situation. I think that's important to understand from their point of view, because they're trying to say, well, if we shut everything down now, the economy is going to suffer for a greater length of time because, well, that's in their mind, because, we'll do it too early. But the messages are too late. So we should have been doing this the moment it started to spring up and was, being transmitted within the country, without having themselves been overseas. That means that they haven't brought it here. The people, just going about their daily lives, unaware they're sick. It is spread asymptomatically. It has been proven to be spread through the air as you exhale without sneezing and coughing and without aerosol. That's already established. And now the epidemiologists whose job it is to hunt down these viruses and work out how they operate so they can put plans in place. These really, they're pretty high paid roles. And they work with the governments trying to work out what's going on. Now, their messages come back to the government about how it operates is way too thick and fast. They're not able to deal with it. So in the media messaging from the mainstream has been the government's message. Wash your hands, do this, do that. Until Friday, Mackie. Friday on the ABC, this fellow was expert and called in and said, we need to shut everything down. We need to do it right now. It's already spreading. We need to lock it down. Take the kids out of school. And then the education minister goes, actually, that would be worse if we shut the schools down. Yeah, that's right. Well, he said because they're going to go to the store, they're going to hang out with their friends. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. 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 That's right. Yeah. You're flattening the curve is the message there. That's right. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because there's devices, there's beds, there's staff. The economy is, while it's frozen as best it can be, it's difficult to manage unless absolutely, yeah, we will. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At any age. That was one of the health ministers. That was one of his arguments. Oh, they're oblivious to it anyway. So I know, and I did some maths, and it's like 1 to 70 contact, right? So that's a contact patch in 3 or 4 hours at schools, 1 to 70 at least. And they're going to bring that back to carers or parents who are earners. At least one of them, hopefully is an earner, if not both. And that's going to cripple that family's ability to earn. And that's if you were to leave them at school. The thing is, if you bring them home, you can have a lockdown. Your family would prefer to probably have a lockdown and reduce the contact patch. And if you can do that, then you're less likely to lose your earning capabilities, and you're more likely to go through it for a longer period without becoming infected. And I think that's the thing. The flattening the curve is very important, because you know what, Mickey? I've been combing the internet for news stories about what are the countries doing when the hospital is full. And I found out that hotels and motels are being sequestered by the government to be able to be utilised in Western worlds, because, by the way, as recuperation centres with ventilation and staffing put on board. Like the building that collapsed in China, that was a recuperation hospital that they made out of a hotel. And there's ventilation. Ventilators are at short supply too. So there's a backlog of like a timeline, a supply chain problem with those. And also, people have gone completely insane and buying up. Now, I remember last week I said I believe that they just didn't really have a focus on what they should be purchasing. I think that's now changed, because now, pasta and long life materials are, they're now vacant, and there's limits been imposed by the outlets. So the big shopping centres are saying you can only buy 1 packet of this, 1 packet of that, and 1 packet of that. You can just go back to your car and then come back in again and buy them again. But there won't be any. And then look, I think fundamentally the way we live our lives will change as a result of this. Because I'm already envious of the time that you could just go out willy-nilly. Already. And it hasn't even started a lockdown. Right? The good old days, Mackie, when you could just go out. Right? So the numbers should be carefully examined, is one of my messages. So I've already mentioned that the countries who maybe their figures are a little doubtful. I've been typing these numbers in every single day, and it's the countries now are just, it's off the chart pretty much. The quantity of countries now that are infected, 142, and we jumped up 25% overnight. We went from 200 to 250. That's a big step up, where all of our gains have been very small. The total quantity of cases in the world are about to exceed China, and probably do that in the next few days. The thing that I was really worried about, Mickey, and that's sort of coming true, and over the last 2 weeks we've seen the stock market plummet due to probably the uncertainty around where this is. Now, I know you've always got something to say about the stock market, and I will let you have it. But the bounce. Now, my friend is big, Bitcoin. He became a millionaire off Bitcoin. He lives in Asia, and he doesn't have to work again. And he sold all of his Bitcoin and then rebought in again, as every time it dips, he buys some more. And he was telling me, stop the fear porn with all the stories coming out. And then it tanked, and he goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "You should be looking at the messaging. What are you doing, right?" And then it bounced back up again, and everyone in the market has described it as the dead cat bounce. And we're seeing Fed in the US and the Australian Federal Federal Reserve Bank, they have been throwing money at it in the trillions to try and prop it up. America has reduced their interest rate again. We've done it. There's almost no more movement in the levers And the question is, I wonder how long it's going to continue to collapse for. America keeps shutting down their trading to try and protect it from falling, and yet then turn it back on again. Oh, it's back down again. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Toilet paper manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Bidet, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's rule number one. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So at 7.15% current mortality rate, the world. I just that's yeah. That's even if it was 5%, but it's just saying 7.15% now at the moment. So it's a 92% recovery rate, which is pretty good overall. However, however, put 7.15% mortality rate onto the world population, and you end up with 550 million dead. If you put it onto Australia's population, that's 1.6 million dead as a result. Just trying to make those numbers, while it seems, oh, it's don't worry about it, you tell that if it was or everyone in Australia who got it, you tell those to the 1.6 million people's friends and relatives that it was okay. It just isn't. Right? It isn't. One death is bad, but the L strain of it has been shown to infect the brain and prevent your trigger an event in which your breathing and heart stops. So that's current info, and this is coming from epidemiologists who do this work and do the research and try and find out what on earth's going to happen next. Right? And they're saying you don't want to be one of those people. But they're saying obesity, Meki, is a big problem. It's also one of the, you think lung disorder, heart disorder, I didn't think obesity was going to be one of those things, but it is. That's right. That's right. Hmm. That's right. Then no. So, and then there's smoking. And that was one of the things that came out about the figures, wasn't it, Meki? So the which country was it again? Where China, where 2% of the females smoked only, but where the majority, almost all of the males smoked, and being a smoker and being a heavy smoker, and being that of that led to a higher mortality rate also. I wanted to just also mention, Meki, because I think it's really important, is the way you should think about this. Imagine if the Spanish flu, for that matter, was now, but we had the tech. If we went back in time with our tech and our internet and our smartphones and everything, went back in time, and all of our travel, actually take travel away. If it was steampunk era, but we had high tech in our hands and the internet, we'd be talking the same talk, but we'd see lesser risk in Australia, for instance, because it came over by boat from the people who had been fighting in the war. But this 24-hour travel around the planet wasn't there. What killed 50 million people? That's a lot of people. But if you think about, that's the kind of it infected a lot more people than it killed. We're looking into very similar. So Ebola came from the river. The Zika virus came from the forest name. This should have been called the Wuhan virus. It should have been, but it seems as though, and it's just going to be a bit conspiratorial here for a minute, that China had a lot of pull with the WHO and the naming rights of it, and it ended up as SARS-CoV-2. That's what it ended up being. But MERS is Middle Eastern. That's what that means. This is the pandemic virus of all viruses ever to have been had, where it was just named a generic name and not given the origin. Isn't that extraordinary? It's not the sign of the times. I mean, 2 years ago we were talking about the others, right? It's not like the new thing. This is the new normal. I think it was just, if it happened somewhere else on the planet with less pull with the WHO, I think it would have just been called the town name or the place name or something that reminded it, like German measles, Mickey. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, but this is funny, Mickey, because no one who had German measles went, you know what, I hate Germans, or I hate Germany on its own. No one with Ebola, if you survived Ebola, no one with Ebola went, you know what, oh, that damned river. I hate that river. Kill the river. The forest. Burn all the forest down so we don't get another one. But what it does, what the naming of the town does in our minds is allow us to remember two things. Remember the town for what it was, right? Probably before the virus. And the other one was to remind us that if we were to visit there, we should take precautions. And this is a pandemic and it's everywhere. Remember how we've been talking, Mickey, about wait till it comes to your town? I think it's everywhere. Now, I got a friend of mine who is, she's a tuner. She likes, she wrenches and uses a wrench on her motor vehicle. She's got coronavirus and she found out she's pregnant. Wow. And she lives on the coast. There's another friend of mine who has all of the symptoms of coronavirus, according to the website, and however, was prevented from having a test. Well, you didn't go overseas. Yeah, but my husband travels. That doesn't matter. So it's funny because it sort of questions the figures a little, and the person who has coronavirus on the coast hasn't been included in figures apparently yet. So there's still more to come. Yeah. It was only today they found out. So this is the thing. So one of the other things, Mick, is the martial law, the call I made about martial law, because everyone's gone so darned crazy over hoarding. We're not martial law, but National Guard has been deployed throughout the US now. Yes, in New York, not throughout, in like 4 towns or something, 4 cities, but it's only going to get broader, and I potentially. Mm-hmm. This. Yeah, and they pulled a knife, and they got those 2 ladies that we mentioned last week got charged with a fray. So, but that's not the worst. I mean, we're not seeing the worst of people. We're just seeing the worst people out there. There are people who, given this situation that's happened already, and the hoarding of food, I think this is what a retired person of government spoke to me this week, retired, and said that there would be military placed in checkpoints because the police at the moment have been asked, Mickey, this is true, they've been asked in New South Wales, they've been asked whether or not they should be doing breath tests now to risk themselves contact. Because you start to see loss of staff just doing day-to-day normal duties, and that's going to be really hard. So given our activities already, the likelihood of having our reservists called and put to arm checkpoints and start to do the things we've seen around the world. While we only have 250 people, I believe, this is my call, I'm saying it right here, right now, Mackie, that it'll probably come after the school holidays. So the school holidays will probably commence, and then at the end of those, they just won't go back to school for a while. So the cruise lines have just, we're packing up. We're going to close down. A concert that my lovely partner, my long suffering partner, has to deal with me. She booked to go see the Harry Potter play down in Melbourne. There's how many seats in there? 500 seats. Oh, you can't have that anymore. So they're trying to organise themselves to be able to have 250 people watch the show instead of 500. Because this is what they're doing. They're banning congregations. In France, said 100 people or more do that. We've seen the Formula One stopped over this weekend. They just cancelled it. That's the end of that. We're not doing that anymore. The V8 supercars run on the same track, and they're just packed up and said, look, we'll find another track to race. We won't, delete one from the season. We'll just add another one. The NBA in the US, Mickey, they stopped. They just gone, no more games. That's it. We're done with that. Greece, the Olympic torch run has been cancelled. They lit it, and they jogged, I don't know, 50 feet or 100 meters. I don't know how long it was. Yes, they'll do. And what they've done is stopped it. And that's something else. So also the Easter show. So the Easter show in Australia, in Sydney, is the gathering of all of the harvest, the bovine, equine, all of the animals from all the farms. Not that there's many left after all the drought and the bushfires, but they bring them all and they show them as like best of show for all of the categories you could possibly imagine. And that's cancelled, so we're not doing that. And that was more than $1 billion worth of crazy, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They closed them down. That's right. Oh, they're calling it, yes. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. It's only going to grow. That number's, yeah. They said all of their large aircraft. That's right. Nice. Hmm. That's right. Yeah. Hmm. Mm-hmm. So the people who work in casual work, I think they're going to have the hardest time, and the government put together some policies to be able to attempt at this early stage to give some kind of support to those people who may be laid paused for their role at work since it's casual, and that's really hard because what they did put in place though, Meki, was this: we have a new start allowance here, which is if you're looking for work, it's not quite unemployment benefits, it's an allowance to be able to get back to work. And they said that you have to wait 9 weeks before you can receive any money from it. And I think casual workers are certainly not able to withstand a 9 week. Because remember, rent, food, utilities. 9 weeks is a long time, right? So that would be that's right. The thing that Italy did was saying, shut down the mortgage payments. So to put a pause on those, they'll all automatically extend, right? So just you don't have to pay the mortgage, because I think that money is going to be needed for everything else that you do. That's the biggest boon. And if we were able to be able to have that here, I think that would be remarkable. But we have to wait and see. It's all levels. Yep. Yep. Here and there. Mm. And there's other shows that are doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of pasta too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And if people work in the utilities, just don't go to work because they're more interested in protecting their family, then there's no more utilities, right? It doesn't take much. That fine edge we're seeing the beginning of, and look, we'll see how that plays out within the US. I think it's going to be um, something to watch. It's 2,951 currently infected, and the rates going up exponentially. We'll just have to see what happens there. And look, if it's the message for all of us to take stock of, mind the pun, I think that's where we have to concentrate. But you know what? Nuclear power needs people to turn it off. Coal fire, you just walk away from it, it just goes out. Aluminium production, same thing. You need power otherwise you're going to buy all of the melting heads all over again because they're encased in aluminium. Look, it's a part of this generation growing up. We've seen the fires, we've seen the floods. Now we have disease and we have pestilence. We have everything. I'm waiting for the horns to go off, Mecca, so I can stand outside like Flanders and look at the apocalypse coming past. What's it called? Not the apocalypse, the other one. The end of the world. So I'm waiting for that to happen. But I think it's going to be a slow dying, wheezing death with this virus going on. It's crazy. So the music should start any second. I just want to ask everyone to use the time during the top of the hour break to donate to the station or subscribe to something, maybe buy something from the store. There's a store there you can do that from, and it's like it's the thing you're doing, right, to support the station. If you like any of this show, we ask you to do it. Mecky and I have our own website, an app. If you want to do that, we have a YouTube channel. You can follow us there too. Do anything that you need to do, right? And we're not condoning violence or eating your neighbor yet, but this is it's got all the hallmarks of societal collapse, but through financial collapse. This could be the depression that they've all wanted. Mecky, I sent you during the week like 20 CEOs that all quit. Crazy numbers, right? And all very recently. Even Bill Gates has stepped down from a board member. I think they've run to their bunkers, to tell the truth. But lucky them. Wish I had a bunker. There's the music. Yeah, there's music. Yeah. David Mecky's Shiny Side Out. There we go. You're back with David Mecky's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. And we're halfway through show number 417. That's what we are. 7, 1, and 400. 7 and 400, Mecky would say. And look, Mecky and I have been doing this since the 9th year. It's just crazy how time has flown, and the amount of topics we've spoken about. Some of them come back and they're updated, and this is one of those. And we're talking about moon anomalies. This is part 2 in the show arc of moon anomalies. Now, to say thank you very much for inviting us into your lives. We do really appreciate it. And if you could reciprocate by liking, following, or whatever it is on the appropriate platform, that would be indeed tremendous if you could do that for us. And we know that you're part of us, and you can message us. We have a website as well, shinysideout.net. And yeah, you can follow us there, email us, contact us, follow. We got blogs as well, and Facebook. There's a whole bunch. You name it, we've got it. We're in it and doing it. Now, Mecky, I've introed show number 417, and this is Moon Anomalies, part 2. No higher strangeness. Tinfoil hat zone. Oh, that's right. Tinfoil hat zone. So, keep your arms within the vehicle. Turn off your personal reality inverters. And no flash photography. Well, firstly, it was that age of flashes that all of those were actually noted and diarized and collected and put into a single document. Operation Moonblink, NASA's Operation Moonblink detected 28 lunar events in a relatively short period of time. I thought we're going to take one by one. Yes. Good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Then you've got the shard. The shard, an obelisk-shaped object that towers 1.5 miles from the Oort area of the moon's surface, was discovered by Orbiter 3 in 1968. Dr. Bruce Cornett, who studied the amazing photographs, stated, "No known natural process can explain such a structure." Yeah. But 1.5 miles, there's some big chips. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, after his wife passed away, he's been very quiet. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the obelisks. Lunar Orbiter 2 took several photographs in November 1966 that showed several obelisks, one of which was more than 150 feet tall. The spires, it's quoted, were arranged in precisely the same was as the pieces of the three apices. Sorry, that's right. Of the apices of the three great pyramids. Wow. I know, right? Ah, yes, of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yes, please. Mass anomaly. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, no dramas at all. Okay, so Carl Sagan stated in his book in 1966, Intelligent Life in the Universe, that a natural satellite which accepted thinking says the moon is can't be hollow. Most would agree with him. So it shocked scientists greatly when the seismic equipment on the moon registered substantial reverberations on November 20, 1969, after the intentional jettisoning of the Apollo 12 lunar module ascent stage back to the surface. Not only did the moon reverberate like a bell, it did so for over an hour. If the data was to be believed, it suggests that the moon is hollow. During the following mission, a greater payload was jettisoned, and the reverberation was measured again. This time, the effect was even greater, with the ringing continuing for well over 3 hours. Despite the suggestions that the moon might indeed be hollow, based upon NASA's own experiments, the findings were largely downplayed by NASA. Never a straight answer. In the years afterwards, at least to the public's knowledge. This has not been studied further. The hollow moon hypothesis is the suggestion that the moon is hollow, usually as a product of alien civilization. Actually, I like that one. It is often called the spaceship moon hypothesis and often corresponds with beliefs in UFOs and ancient astronauts. The suggestion of a hollow moon first appeared in science fiction when H.G. Wells wrote about a hollow moon in his 1901 book, The First Men in the Moon. The concept of hollow planets was not new. Wells borrowed from earlier fictional works that described a hollow Earth, such as the 1741 novel Niels Klim's Underground Travels by Ludwig Holberg. Academic proposals for a hollow Earth predated that. Edmund Halley's hypothesis, advanced in 1692, was the first one to specify an actual void in the Earth. Greek mythology, with its Hades and early religious concepts of an underworld such as the Christian hell, contributed to ideas of the Earth being hollow. It is now considered to be a fringe theory. It is often described in the media as a conspiracy theory. And the concept of a moon as a spaceship is often mentioned as one of David Icke's beliefs. You know, that's right. Just put his name in the beginning. Look, we don't think that, but that's the general masses. Mackie, the ebb and flow satellite pair that went to measure this was, in the words of the fellow that led NASA at the time, or Ed Bolden, I think, he said when asked what were those satellites going to do, and his reply was to find if anything is beneath the surface, or sorry, to find out what's beneath the surface, if anything. Meaning that they were intentionally looking to see whether there was any other mass, whether this is just a shell on the outside and what's going on, right? Because you know what? It's kept them scratching their heads for some time. Imagine if it was just like the Death Star, a big sphere that's, you know, maybe the inhabitants are dead, or maybe they're still alive, given all those puffs and whiffs and, you know, shiny things and stuff that's occurred. Maybe it's still active. Not Earth. Yep. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why would you do that? Yeah, we could. Mm-hmm. 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 That'll do. Yes. Yeah, that's what it was. That's really funny. So, one of my favorite topics here, the moon ran like a bell. And while I covered it a little earlier, I wanted to go into a bit deeper here. So, between 1972 and 1977, seismometers installed on the moon by the Apollo missions recorded moonquakes. The moon was described as ringing like a bell during some of those quakes, specifically the shallow ones. This phrase was brought to popular attention in March 1970 in an article in Popular Science when Apollo 12 deliberately crashed the ascent stage of its lunar module onto the moon's surface. It was claimed that the moon rang like a bell for an hour, leading to arguments that the moon must be hollow, like a bell. Lunar seismology experiments since then have shown that the lunar body has shallow moonquakes that act differently from quakes on Earth due to surface differences in texture, type, and density of the planetary strata, but there is no evidence of any large empty space inside the body. Mackie. Yeah, that. Mm-hmm. What evidence? What's evidence? Yeah. insufficiently. And their description is insufficiently constructed to count for that heavy mass object within the base of the moon. That's right. It doesn't describe it in any way. Mm-hmm. So, mainstream scientific opinion on the internal structure of the moon overwhelmingly supports a solid internal structure with a thin crust, an extensive mantle, and a small, denser core. This is based on 1. Seismic observations. Besides Earth, the moon is the only planetary body with seismic observation network in place. I think they've actually added some to Mars now. Analysis of lunar seismic data have helped constrain the thickness of crust at around approximately 45 kilometers, and the mantle as well as the core radius at 330 kilometers. Number 2, moment of inertia parameters. True. Physical libration of the moon measured via lunar laser ranging constrains the normalized polar movement of inertia to 0.394, give or take, 0.002. This is very close to the value of a solid object with radially constant density, which would be 2/5 or about 0.4 for comparison of Earth's value at 0.33. The normalized polar movement of inertia for a hollow moon would be close to the value of 2/3 for a thin sphere. I just want people to understand what this means. If you try to spin a raw egg, it will vastly wobble and come to a stop really quickly. Whereas if you've partially boiled one and just dipped it in and introduced it so that the white is starting to coagulate, you'll have a longer spinning, but it'll still fall over. But if you hard boil an egg and spin it, it will spin for ages like a top. So that's what they're measuring. They're measuring that differential in its spin. Yeah, that's the... Mm-hmm. Probably the engine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Mm. That's right. That's right. Just like on Iron Sky. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's right. Whatever, keeps it from, collapsing in on itself. So, yeah, yeah. That's right. Yep. No, you're completely right, and that's I'm agreeing with you entirely. So there was a movie, Meki, when I was little, and there was like ants that lived in the moon, and this guy goes up there for some reason, and it's like a massive ants nest of alien creatures, and they're very ant-like, and he has to escape at some point. It's a bit vague because it was a long, long time ago, like when I was a kid, right? In all in black and white, and I'd always kept that theory from what I remember seeing in portrayed in this movie, and look, it still stands up, Mickey, and it was written a while before any of the space race, to be honest. So we didn't even have a clue, and I think maybe that's one of those things, where art has, like a crystal ball and can see the future. Yeah. So what's another point of view, Mickey? Mm-hmm. The moon, the moon is the moon is a spaceship, a secret moon base. Hear how I did that at the end? In 1972, Soviet astronomers had been studying the satellite and theorized that it was likely a hollow moon put in place by a highly advanced extraterrestrial race. Their theory was based on these observable anomalies, claiming the moon was an artificial shell that had been inhabited internally for years. While it might seem far-fetched that we are being surveilled by an extraterrestrial race on the moon, or that a hollow moon may have been intentionally placed in Earth's as a secret moon base, there are a plethora of inexplicable facts about its relationship with Earth. To this day, there are several theories that attempt to explain how the moon ended up orbiting our planet, though none have been absolutely accepted, leading many to believe that the moon is a spaceship. Pardon me. With the moon's orbiting precisely where it is, it's possible that life on Earth wouldn't exist, or at least wouldn't have evolved to the point that it has. In fact, it is estimated that less than 10% of all terrestrial planets in the universe have an Earth-to-Moon ratio like ours, which provides the stability that is necessary to maintain a climate that can harbour life. The size of the moon is such that it affects our axial tilt, or the way that the Earth wobbles on its axis, changing by a single degree over the course of thousands of years. This relegation to 1 degree of movement is necessary for climatic stability. Without the moon's balance, the Earth could tilt as much as 85 degrees every million years or so, causing drastic changes. This would adjust the orientation of the Earth to the Sun so significantly that the Sun would shift to be situated directly over the poles rather than the equator where it currently is. Life could not evolve during such radical shifts. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Hollow moon proof. What's out there? According to Zulu legend, our hollow moon was put in place by two brothers with scaly fish-like skin. I'm already a believer in this one. The legend tells of Wowane and Mpanku, who brought the moon to the earth after stealing it from a great fire dragon. They are said to have emptied out the egg-like satellite of its yolk, subsequently placing it in orbit around Earth. Prior to this, the planet was said to have been shrouded in a sheath of watery mist, which came raining down to Earth once the moon came into orbit. Some believe that this deluge of water may be a reference to the Great Flood that destroyed the antediluvian civilizations. The two brothers mentioned also bear similar characteristics to Enki and Enlil of ancient Sumerian lore, who was responsible for instituting the first civilizations of man and are often depicted wearing fish garb. I don't remember seeing those. Another strange characteristic recorded on the moon from one of Apollo 14's Alsace was the presence of a cloud of water vapor on the moon. After 40 years, NASA reported finding the presence of water in rock samples brought back from these missions, stating that the discovery would change how we think about the moon. A further examination showed that this water had twice the levels of deuterium isotope compared to water found on Earth. Furthermore, they said that there was reason to believe that there are 600 million tons of water trapped in craters on the moon. At the time of Apollo 14's discovery of water vapor, NASA claimed that it was the result of ruptured water tanks that had leaked Earth water into the atmosphere. The cloud of water vapor covered 100 square miles and lingered for 14 hours before dissipating, making NASA's explanation improbable, considering the tanks were referred to only contained between 60 and 100 pounds of water. NASA also claimed that the water from the ruptured tanks simultaneously burst, though they were over 100 miles apart. Why would they make such an absurd claim, and why did it take 40 years to analyze and discover water in these rock samples brought back from the Apollo missions? Could the water be coming from an internal source, perhaps one that NASA doesn't want us to know? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but they burst simultaneously. That's correct. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. 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 And you have a temperature inversion to get a fog. So Meki, one of the things, of course, right, is, well, we've been observing stuff for 400 years on the moon, doing strange stuff, and then what's NASA's first answer? Oh, it was just ruptured water tanks. that just happened to burst simultaneously for no reason whatsoever. That's right. They're lights from them. That's right. Yeah, completely. 6 minutes. Yes. There you go. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. We're going to have a friend of the show come on. It's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. I'm like a deer in headlights with this one because it is it's the thing that we've all spoken about. It's the thing we've all looked at. It's up there. It's the elephant in the room, right? As far as how did it get here? Nothing seems to make sense. And as we give you more and more information on and the stories coming from ancient civilizations about either its creation or the time before the moon or the as we've already given you the anomalies which NASA used to locate the specific places that were of interest on the moon to go. That was the book of origin for them, right? All of this stuff, it says, it screams something to us that it doesn't appear to be what we think it is. It's not just that big thing in the sky that just happens to have all the mathematical equations around it that says it shouldn't exist. You know, maybe it truly is artificial. maybe even in a biblical text, making there are references to the Watchers, the people who were going to ensure the steady health of the human race, right? Yeah. So, I mean, is there inhabited life up there? Has it already left? And that's the remnant of it. Why did all of the space missions cease to send people to the moon? Why did it get cut off? Where's the footage of drilling into these craters? I've sent you, and I'll paste it into the chat for everyone. The footage from the Chinese orbiting satellite that's a live stream, and you can see these things for yourself. You can see these low-lying, apparent, it looks like they're flooded areas, that they've been flooded and the material is set, and then nice young meteor impacts, really shallow ones, but then you see these massive ones that you can see the curve of the crust, and then there's a lumpy thing in the middle of the crater that sticks above it. It's all completely evident. It does entirely look like it's a solid sphere on the outside that's just coated in the remnants, the dusty remnants of all the other things it's collided with. That's what it looks like. And if only we had a machine to get there. You and I, Meki, that we could go there and have a look. I know, right? Yeah. I can't say it's one day, because that's really unlikely. But if only they shared, if only NASA shared, if they were able to share with us this, and every day people call out the fact that we might get disclosure. I wonder if that's where they'd start. Yes. That's right. That's unlikely. Yeah. It'll be show 417, and stay tuned for Jeb's awesome show coming up, and he'll bring you to Dawn in the US. Take care, everyone. See you next week.